especially back then, really awkward. It's like no one, like people would have bet $1 million that I wouldn't be a YouTuber. You know, it makes no sense. But I have, hyper obsession and I love this. And, you give it enough time, anyone can solve it.
Welcome to the Mindset by Design podcast with your host, the expert Andy Murphy, where you will learn the tips, tricks, and strategies he teaches his world-class clients to give you the skills to dominate any business.
What's going on, Mindset by Design crew, and welcome to episode 347. Hope you are amazing as always. I really do. And here we are. We thought the world was calming down, but no, it's got a little crazier, hasn't it? It all happened in the last 2 weeks. So we got a war going on now. Petrol prices, gas prices for you Americans, but it's going through the roof. There's chaos everywhere. COVID seems to have vanished. What's happening? I don't know. But what I do know is that life is good. Life is good and life is a choice. And it doesn't really matter what's happening on the outside. Understand this, and you've probably experienced this yourself, right? You could have the biggest house, the best car, things that you have really, really wanted for a long time. And then you get them and you drive in that car for a couple of days and, it's awesome. It's awesome and you're feeling good. And then guess what? It just becomes a car. And then you get that house and you love in this house and you're walking around this house. And then guess what happens after a couple of months? It's just a house. And so what we try to look for is external validation to make ourselves happy, right? To make ourselves fulfilled. And the truth is it can never happen that way. Because you can have all of the assets, all of the things, right? All of the money pumping in. And hey, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's an awesome thing. Shiny things are pretty cool. But it doesn't mean that it's going to make you fulfilled. Doesn't mean that it's going to make you happy. Doesn't mean that it's going to light you up every day. What does do that is designing your inner world, and so it comes on the outside. That's it. That's the number one thing. And it doesn't matter if I've worked with Fortune 500 CEOs, royalty, world champions. It doesn't really matter. The thing is, it's the same thing. You see glimpses into these people's lives, especially at the highest level when you're dealing with also billionaires, right? The external world does not make you happy unless you are already happy. Does that make sense? And it sounds common knowledge, but it doesn't mean it's common practice. And it doesn't mean that we are actually building this feeling inside of ourselves and being really grateful for everything that's around us. And do you know what feels good? Fulfillment. Do you know what fulfillment means? Fulfillment means you have a vision, you are guided, you are pulled to something, your intuition's making you take action. And you know what? You do it. And it makes you feel good because it's what you're supposed to do. And when we don't feel good, it means that we're kind of resisting the expansion. Does that make sense? So expansion, it always happens. It always happens. We either resist it or we allow it. And if we allow it, we expand. We expand into new possibilities. We expand into people that we didn't even know exist, but become our best friends, right? We expand into new ideas, new ventures, new possibilities. And that's only outside the box that you've been living in or you've been limiting yourself in. Does that make sense? But everybody loves to stay in this little box. But everybody wants what's outside that box. So when you really get that, everything changes. Because all that you're doing is working on designing your life, designing your brain, designing the images, designing and then installing them. And then every day working on pumping that mind muscle to make you think, feel, and act exactly how you want to. And then guess what happens on the outside? Yeah, awesomeness. Awesomeness happens, man. It does. And speaking of awesomeness, we got a good one today. If you don't know Mr. Beast, then you should know Mr. Beast, right? Mr. Beast is the number one YouTuber in the world. He's only 24 years old. He spends like $45 million a year on advertising. And he's just an amazing human being in every capacity. He's number one thing, he's a philanthropist. He creates videos that are Hollywood productions, right? And he just loves life. But what you see through this interview that I'm going to show you, this clip of the interview, was on Rogan, and it's just so good. And if you want to watch the whole interview, it's badass. I've watched him also on his friends interviewed him on YouTube. There's another interview. It's really, really cool. It's about 3 hours long. And you really get to see behind the scenes of what he's doing. He's running an empire. Do you know what I mean? And he's still young. He's still really young. But age doesn't mean anything anymore, right? It used to be the case that time will give you information, right? So the longer you've done something, the more you get, right? But the information wasn't available to people 20 years ago. It wasn't. We didn't have the internet 25 years ago? The internet didn't really exist. And so the information was extremely limited. But these days, everyone's got access to everything. Do you know what I mean? So Jimmy, that's his name, Jimmy, Mr. Beast, he started creating videos when he was 11. So he's already put in over a decade of work, a decade of growth, a decade of analytics. And what you're going to hear from this clip and also the full interview, he's crazy obsessive. And I haven't met a person ever in my life, no matter who I've worked with, as I say, world champions, NBC people, Hollywood actors, doesn't really matter, man. Someone who's a badass at their craft is obsessed with becoming a badass at their craft. Does that make sense? And that obsession inside is what creates gold medalists. It's what creates empires. It's what creates Steve Jobs, right? It's the same thing. It's that obsession. And that's what you hear with Jimmy. And what was wild is I didn't know this. He has also Crohn's disease, which is an autoimmune disorder. So he's doing all of these wild things, and some days he just can't get out of bed. But he keeps pushing forwards because his passion and his dream is so big, it's so much, and it's what he loves to do. So if you're doing what you love to do every day, then you can be really obsessed with it. Does that make sense? I hope so. So we're going to jump into this clip in a moment. And I know you're going to love this episode today. Of course, I'm going to play the clip, jump in, do my thing. You know me by now. We're up to 347 episodes. If you don't know me by now, well, you've got 346 previous ones to go and check me out, right? So how am I helping you? I've got so many ways to help you, but the number one way I can help you right now is, first of all, you got to help yourself. This is not for everybody. Entrepreneurism is not for everybody. Building an online brand and community is not for everybody. But if it is for you and you are already doing it, then do you know what? This is why we created something called the Radical Formula. It's success engineering. That's what we've created, success engineering. And it's pretty epic. We're just about to launch the podcast next week, which is so cool. It's going to be with my business partner, my good mate, Ryan Alford. He's already got the top 25 business podcast in the US, and he's just a badass, right? So what we've created is something special. The biggest thing we want to create is a really tight-knit, awesome, powerhouse community. That's the mission, right? Because as an entrepreneur, we tend to just sit in front of our laptop and build things, right? But sometimes we need a bit of support. And it might not be from me or Ryan. You might not just need a bit of support who's someone who's playing on the same level or just a friend who might live across the other side of the world that you've connected with. You know what I mean? But that's the community. So Ryan has been a marketing genius for 25 years. Worked with Apple, worked with everybody you can imagine, right? And we want to take that knowledge and show you how to cut through the noise of the industry. So if you're pumping out content right now and it's just not getting eyeballs, then guess what? Ryan's going to help you solve that. If you are not clear and you really want to know how to step into flow states, how to increase your focus triple, you want to be able to be massively creative, you want to be disciplined, you want to really build and scale that business, but sometimes you feel a sabotage in yourself, or you get in your own way, or your brain's not firing quite right, you're not on optimum peak performance, then guess what? That's me. That's my world. I've done this for 20 years myself. 20 years in September, man. That's quite kind of crazy. But yeah, 20 years, and I want to help you. And we're here to help you. But you got to help yourself. So the cool thing is we've got a badass Facebook group we just launched the other day. You can jump into there. The links will be in the show notes. What else? Yeah, you can go. There should be a webinar up next week. And it's really cool. It's not even a webinar, man. It's just a showcase. Ryan teaches you some awesome stuff. I teach you some awesome stuff. And if the community's for you, then you jump in. That simple. So that's there. TheRadicalFormula.com. And or just go to the show notes and click on the link. Sound good? Beautiful. So should we jump in? Should we jump in and go and see Jimmy, the Mr. Beast himself? Of course we shall. So I'll see you at the end of the show.
Yeah, it's been crazy because I've been doing it since I was 11. And
really?
Yeah, so now I'm 23, and so it's just like basically every year it's just gotten crazier and crazier. And yeah, I used to make $1 a day back. Well, the first few years I wasn't even making money off YouTube, but once I started making money, I was making $1 a day. And I saved up for a couple months. I bought a microphone, saved up for half a year. I got a computer, and I've just always reinvested it. And so it's like literally just all. I mean, I was like as awkward as they came. No money, no nothing, and I just basically just obsessed over YouTube every day for a decade.
Are your first episodes available? When you were 11 years old?
No, because I had a friend when I was 13 that found my channel, and so I deleted like all the videos. I got really self-conscious.
Oh no!
I know, but so everything from 13 and up is there, and yeah, they're fucking terrible.
That's still cool.
Yeah.
So what did you do when you first started? Like, what was the first idea?
The very first video. Weirdly enough, I played this stupid game and some hacker like killed my base when I was 11. And so I uploaded it. And my first video got 20,000 views like instantly because it was like all the people that played the game was like, oh shit, you can hack in this game. It's a game called Battle Pirates. I guarantee you no one listening.
What is it called?
Battle Pirates. No one here has ever heard of it.
Battle
Pirates. It was,
Battle Pirates.
Yeah, it was a really small game. But I uploaded that and I got 20,000 views. And that was probably the best thing that could have ever happened to me because then I was hooked from day one. Literally, like most people, it takes hundreds of videos before you get like one view. And somehow the very first video I uploaded at 11 got like 20,000 views. And then I was just like, oh, I fell in love. And I've been hooked ever since.
Wow. So it was kind of almost by accident.
Essentially, yeah. It was that. And then, because this was way before YouTube was even a thing. Like,
Right.
you know, no one was really a YouTuber. Hardly anyone made money.
When did YouTube when did it launch?
Like 2006 or whatever.
Yeah,
YouTube was a
7.
thing, but like the partner program wasn't really a thing. No one
Right.
was making money.
Right.
And it was definitely back before it was cool. Like when I was doing YouTube when I was 14 and 15, like now, you know, it's cool if you want to be a YouTuber in high school or middle
Yeah.
school. Back then, like no one gave a fuck. You know what I mean? It was like you're just worried they would try to play your videos in class or make fun of you or stuff like that for it.
So, but how did it evolve to what it is now? Was it a vision? Was it a slow, sort of a gradual increase in numbers? And
Yeah, I mean, it's about as slow as it gets. Like, when I was a young teenager, I was getting no views, had no money, had no equipment. And so, for the most part, it was just like, I was just trying to scrounge money so I could buy equipment because I was using my brother's old laptop. And so, like, my first couple hundred videos, I didn't have a microphone. Like, imagine just, like, crackly, terrible voice. And so once I got monetized, I saved up for a few months. Like I told you, I bought a microphone. I can just give you a mile high history. And I saved up for like 6 months. I mean, I was just doing video game videos, and they were terrible. But I saved up. I got a real computer. So now I could actually record the video game in high quality. I have a microphone. I'm like 15. And I just kept going and going. I'm trying to figure out, like, what are some of, like, the hot spots. Like, essentially, up until 18, I had been doing YouTube pretty religiously, but I was making no money. Like, this is kind of the turning point was when I graduated from high school. And my whole life, I was like, I want to be making enough money by the time I graduated to do this full time. And I wasn't. I was still only making a couple $100 a month. So I graduated high school, and my mom was like, either move out or go to a community college. And I didn't have enough money to move out, but I hated school with a passion. But she forced me to go to community college. And that was the worst thing ever. Like, that made me hate life. Like, borderline suicidal. I just can't stand, like, having to just sit there and listen to this dumb stuff and listen to some teacher read out a book. So what I did was I would act like I was going to community college, but I would just work on videos in my car and edit and stuff like that. I had straight zeros. And so now the clock had started because once my mom found out, I was screwed.
Were you aware of that? Like, that you're running a risk?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I would act like I was going to college that whole time, but I wasn't. And I didn't have enough money to move out. And that was kind of when I was just like 15 hours a day, all in. I was like, I'm fucked if this doesn't work. And I had some videos pop off. I couldn't tell you which ones, but I had a month where I made 20 grand because I just had some videos just do really, really well. And then I came home and I was like, I haven't been going to college, and I moved out the next day. My mom almost had a heart attack because she didn't understand YouTube or anything back then, and she was like, man, this guy's gonna work at McDonald's. I wasted all this time. Like, I invested 18 years, and this is what I get.
So let me jump. That's a great start to a clip, right? But let me jump in there. Do you know what I mean? It's obviously he was young when he started, so he could take the risk. You know what I mean? Or he chose to take the risk. Or we can look, oh, you're young, so you could take the risk. You didn't have responsibilities. But understand, that's not true. That's not true. It just means that we've got to juggle more things. But what you saw from that is his determination was just beyond anything, right? So from 11 to 18, he didn't earn any money. Do you understand that? He didn't earn any money. And then he set a goal. And the goal was to be able to be financially independent from YouTube. And he didn't accomplish it. So what else did he do? He still was obsessed. He knew he was going to get in trouble. He knew that his life could be really stressful. But guess what he did? It didn't stop him. He kept going. And his vision might not have been to build an empire like he has, man. You know what I mean? And it wasn't that, because how could somebody see that that's possible when you're 18 years old? You couldn't, right? You couldn't. There's very few individuals. Maybe Bill Gates or somebody, right? Or somebody like that. But everybody else, there's no way. But what he did do was master his craft. Does that make sense? And you're going to hear more about this. I think it's in this clip. It was definitely in the full interview. But he mastered his craft. And that's what I want to bring over to you, because it's something I rant on about a lot right now. A lot. It's a case of there's so many people in the marketing and coaching industry. This is why me and Ryan have started the Radical Formula. It's to help people. This is the reason why. Because I've explained this so many times, but the coaching industry, the marketing industry, the agent industry, basically the online world has been inundated with people who really believe in their heart that they're experts. But guess what? They're not. They're not experts. I mean, Michael Gladwell talks about the 10,000 hour rule to become a master. I believe it's more than that. I really do. And modern studies are actually showing it's more than that. It's more like 13,000, 14,000 hours. But who cares about 10,000 hours, right? A master, a Jedi, right? It's got 100,000 hours. It's all they do. And that's what's required. Because unfortunately, people think that they're a black belt when they're a white belt. Does this make sense? So everybody, and I've explained this, and sorry if I've said this on the podcast a few times. It's just a beautiful definition that I use. So everybody thinks if you're a white belt and a black belt and they're doing the same movement, right? The same pattern, the same moves. The white belt really thinks that he knows what the black belt knows. You understand? Because he could be brilliant at those moves. He could be, well, brilliant is probably an understatement, but an overstatement, but he could be really good at those moves, right? Those basic foundational moves. Nothing wrong with that. That's epic. But he thinks, or she thinks, or they think that they know what the black belt knows. But the white belt can never know what the black belt knows. The black belt, well, can know everything that the white belt knows. And that's the problem. Because wisdom or experience only comes through time, effort, and energy. So what Mr. Beast did was just, well, he speeded that up, right? If all you did for 15 hours a day was learn your craft and master it, do you think that you might get better faster than someone who's doing it for maybe 2 hours a day, 5 days a week? Of course, right? But that's what a world champion does. That's what a black belt does. That's what Mr. Beast did. And so you need that level of hustle, that level of commitment, that level of focus, that level of obsession to become the best version of you. And that means you can master your craft. Okay? Makes sense? Let's jump back to Mr. Beast.
Where were you living? What part of the country?
North Carolina. That's where I've lived almost my whole life.
And so how does she feel now?
Oh, she's great.
Is she like
she's beyond
flabbergasted?
happy. Yeah, she loves it. Put her in front of her friends. She loves talking about it. She obviously. She's
I
great.
always knew little Jimmy was going to be a success.
No, she doesn't try to hide it. We would fight all the time. Even in high school, I never once studied. I literally wouldn't even take my books home. I legit don't think I studied once all of high school at my house. And so we would fight a lot. I didn't have the best grades. And so I would just make videos, and she didn't understand it, especially because back then it was just a whole different world. There wasn't really a thing as a full-time YouTuber and stuff.
I just want to jump in there again. Did you hear what he said about school? Did you hear what he said about school? Yeah. That's the thing, right? School for some people is amazing. School for some people is just like a nightmare. For me, it was a nightmare. I hated every single day from the very first moment I got taken there. And what was that, like 6, 5, 4? I don't even know. But I hated it, right? I hated being told what to do. I hated the information that was being taught because it was boring. All I wanted to do, to be honest, was martial arts. That's all I wanted to do. But I want you to understand this. I don't know how old you are, or if you've got kids listening to this, or whatever it is, but school is far from everything for everyone, right? And the truth is, there's so many other opportunities out there right now than the other classical system of going through schooling, getting a degree, getting a corporate job. That's how you're going to be safe. No, it's actually probably the opposite now. It's how you're going to not be safe. What is being safe is deriving an income stream from wherever you are in the world. That's what safety is, right? Being able to pick your laptop up and be able to help people, to be able to create content, to be able to do whatever it is you want to do and earn money. That's what's safe, right? Mastering yourself and your craft, that's what's safe. What isn't safe is working in a 9-to-5 job, my opinions, working in a 9-to-5 job where one person can say you've got an income or not. That doesn't make any sense. That to me is exceptionally scary, where everybody in the corporate world think that's very safe. Now, I'm not saying not to do that. It's epic. If you love it and you kick ass at it, then carry on, right? But most people listening to this want to be entrepreneurs already very successful entrepreneurs. And this is the difference. This is a new game, a new world, a new future. And we have to adapt and have behavioral flexibility to what the new future is dictating, not with the past, right? If we were still running from the past, then we would still be getting encyclopedias from the library, right? We wouldn't be looking for the relevant, most up-to-date information. We would still be reading newspapers. And it's so funny because it was like Mark Zuckerberg is really puzzled why Facebook isn't doing the numbers that it was doing anymore. And, well, we know the reason, right? We know the reason. It's because the younger generation are using very different platforms. They're not using Facebook. That's for basically people who are 30 and older. which, by the way, is a great audience for mine and Ryan stuff. But that's the difference, right? So when you start understanding where your target audience is, you also starting to understand that where are people playing. And some people play on Facebook, some people play on Instagram, some people playing on TikTok, some people play on none of it, right? And they're just email obsessed, or none of the above. But the truth is, the world is changed so much, we have to change with it.
And so there's a lot of arguments, a lot of drama, but ended up working out. She's happy.
The thing is, it's like nobody saw this coming, right? So you can't blame her.
But dude, especially me in like the middle of North Carolina in a small town. I had like horrible acne. I'm especially back then, really awkward. It's like no one, like people would have bet $1 million that I wouldn't be a YouTuber. You know, it makes no sense. But I just like, I have, hyper obsession and I love this. And, you give it enough time, anyone can solve it.
Well, there's a lesson in that for people, really. Like to just, if you do have a hyper obsession to something, there's a lot of people that think that because they're bad at school or because they're not interested in school, that they're destined to be a loser.
Yeah.
And that's not true. The problem is school is too rigid. Like regular public school system, sit down, underpaid teacher, disinterested, not really connected with the work. You're not connected with it. You just can't wait to go home and do what you like to do.
Exactly.
And you get this thought in your head like, oh my God, I'm going to be a loser. I mean, that's how I was when I was in high school. I thought I was going to be a loser.
Well, and you take it a step further because I thought, especially if you're like extremely passionate about something at a young age, where most kids are, then it's more exacerbated that it's like, I didn't talk to anyone. I hardly had any friends because I was so obsessed with YouTube. As back then, just no one cared. So it's like I thought I was just like just didn't even know how to speak. Like literally, I just couldn't hold a conversation with a single person because people would just tell me all you talk about is YouTube, and I would try to talk about something else. But back then, I was so hyper obsessed, I literally just didn't know how to.
But what were you obsessed about? Were you obsessed about other channels, your channel?
Everything from like learning how to editing, the pacing of the videos, like ideas, what's going viral, what's trending, what's hot. Especially back then, I had no idea what worked. I mean, I had to like self-teach myself everything, even frame rate on cameras, coloring of the video, just stuff like that.
And how did you learn? Did you learn from YouTube?
Yeah, well,
so like YouTube videos and tutorials or something?
Most of my growth came actually after I graduated high school. Basically what I did was I somehow found these other like 4 lunatics. 3 of us were college dropouts, 1 was a high school dropout, and 1, I don't know, he just like quit his job. We were all super small YouTubers, and we basically talked every day for 1,000 days in a row and did nothing but just like hyper study, like what makes a good video, what makes a good thumbnail, what's good pacing, like how to go viral. And we'd just call it like daily masterminds. We would just get on Skype every morning, and like some days like I'd get on Skype at 7 a.m. and I'd be in the call until like 10 p.m. and then I'd go to bed and I'd wake up and I'd do it again. And we'd do things like just take 1,000 thumbnails and see if like there's a correlation to the brightness of the thumbnail to how many views it got, or like like videos that get over 10 million views is like how often do they cut the camera angles, or like things like that.
Really? So you microanalyzed
everything.
Really?
Yeah, just for like we were very religious about it, and so that's where most of my knowledge came from. Is I just surround myself with these lunatics, and just every day, like we didn't do anything. We had no life.
But everybody had sort of a similar vision.
Yeah, exactly. And so we all had like 10, 20,000 subscribers when we met. And by the time we stopped talking, we all had millions of subscribers. And we all hit 1 million subscribers like within a month. It's crazy. Because it's like, if you envision a world where you're trying to be great at something, and it's just like you learning and fucking up and then learning from your mistakes. Also, my mom told me not to curse. Sorry, Mom. If someone could just like edit out the swear words and give it to me.
Sorry, Mom.
Yeah, so I could give it to my mom to listen to, that would be great.
So that's quite fun. I don't think Rogan's going to edit anything. But in fact, he didn't edit anything. But what was amazing about that, right? We talk about hyper obsession, and hyper obsession is I love that term. I absolutely love that term. And I'm going to be doing some more content around that specifically. Hyper obsession. That's gold. Anyway, do you hear what he did? It's wild, right? He created a collective consciousness, a group, a team, right? All focused on the same vision. And this comes back to Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich book. And it's called the Mastermind Alliance, right? 2 or more people dedicated to the common goal, the common good, in the spirit of harmony. So he created a group of obsessed people, all with a very similar vision and mission. And guess what? Then they went to town. All they did, again, hyper obsession around creating and analyzing what worked. And unfortunately, the world points everybody's focus on what doesn't work. Do you know what I mean? On the things that are going wrong, on the news channels, the clickbait media. Everything's about focused on what you can't do. How many programs on TV, Netflix, well, forget TV, who watches TV, right? Netflix or whatever it is, right? Streaming. How many programs around business, entrepreneurs are actually about the journey of doing awesome things? Not many, right? Everything's about scamming. Everything's about like doing robberies and shady stuff and hacking and all of this to make money. But you know, everything is about pointing on what you can't do. And to do something different, you've got to do something shady and illegal. There's not many programs out there that show you a journey of how someone just works hard and creates success, you know, and they're happy and healthy. No, it's never like that, right? And what, as an entrepreneur, I'm sure you would love too, is that it's a program like that, right? Where you just watch someone and they kick ass and they win, right? And you see all the trials and tribulations, the highs, the lows, and they still win. That's what we want. But the world doesn't want that, right? Because the majority of people don't think like that. And maybe it's to do because they're programmed not to think like that. But my point is, the new world, we have to think like that. So my question is, who are you putting yourself around right now? Have you got your squad? No, probably not, right? Probably not the way you want it.
But like, you know, you mess up, you learn from your mistake, you mess up, you learn from your mistake. You in 2 years, you know, might have learned from 20 mistakes. Or if you have like 4 other people who are also messing up, and when they learn from the mistake, they teach you what they learn, stuff like that. Hypothetically, you 2 years down the road have learned like 5 times more of the amount of stuff. So it just like helps you grow exponentially way quicker, if that makes any sense.
It does. It does. So but it's interesting that you thought about it that way in sort of a systematic approach. Like
exactly.
This is not dumb luck.
No, I mean, it was like they say 10,000 hours in math or something. We probably put in like 40, 50,000 hours. I mean, we're talking like every day, all day, like literally nothing. We had no friends outside of the group. That was your life. And
I'm actually rereading that book right now, that Malcolm Gladwell book, Outliers, that talks about that 10,000 hours principle. It totally applies to what you did. 100%. I mean, like it sounds like you were just all day, every day, and which makes sense. And what do you have now? 90 million subscribers?
Well, we across everything, we're closing in on 200 million subscribers.
Jesus!
Yeah, because have you seen our dub channels?
No.
Can you pull that up? Just search Mr. Beast in Espanol. So we actually, which I'm kind of curious why you don't do this. We do our videos in other languages as well.
Really?
Yeah. And so I can't wait to get to show you this because I actually have a really cool story. Here, just go to the channel so you can translate.
Who does this?
We do.
So you hire someone?
Hit videos, yeah, we have voice actors and everything.
Wow.
So these are the exact same videos on my main channel, but we pay voice actors to dub over them. We translate the text in the video, everything.
Mr. Beast in Espanol.
Yeah, that was actually one of the fastest growing channels last year, and it's just our videos
so
dubbed.
Smart.
Okay, now click on a video so you can kind of hear it.
Hoy, mis amigos y yo volveremos a la primaria. Al final de la clase haremos un examen de 10 preguntas y si te
And so
equivocas
scroll
en más
down
de dos,
so you can see the comments. It's all in Spanish, like.
That's dope.
Yeah, so that's now just I won't pull them all up, but now
in
just
the other countries.
Yeah, search Mr. Beast Brazil. We do a bunch of languages.
So you got a Portuguese translator as well.
Yeah.
Wow, that's dope.
Yeah, same thing
I love
here.
it. Oh man, what a great idea, man.
Yeah, and so. Because, you know, if you Google it, it's like only, less than 10% of the world speaks English. So 90% of the world can't even enjoy your content. And when I realized that, I was like, wait a minute. 90% of the world can't even watch this stuff. And so go back to the Spanish one real quick, because that's our biggest one. And sorry for anyone watching who doesn't have the visuals. So set it to most popular. We just started doing this like 6 months ago, and it's crazy like how viral some of these videos are going.
51 million.
Yeah. And
the problem with me is like, I don't know if someone's going to translate if they're going to say exactly what I said.
Well, you have quality control. So we have before a video gets uploaded, we have 3 different people who basically write the transcript, and then if the words don't line up on all three, then let me think about the process. We have something like that because I was worried about that as well. I think we take the original transcript and then we have it dubbed, and then after stuff we have like two different people write out, and if it doesn't line up with the original, then there's like it's a red flag, and then we look at it.
Interesting.
Yeah, we built some system where I don't have to worry about that. Oh, and the final point is, in Spanish, the guy who does my dubs is the same guy who dubbed Spider-Man. We managed to convince him. So a lot of those comments are like, why does he sound like Spider-Man? Or is Mr. Beast Spider-Man?
That's hilarious.
Yeah, and so what we do is when we go into these markets, we get celebrities to do my voice. So then the local people in the language freak out. So like... Japan's coming up, and I can't say who, but we secured like a giant voice actor from an anime to do my dubs. And whenever we launch in Japan, I know they're going to lose their freaking minds.
That's a brilliant idea. That's so smart. So you have how many employees then?
I mean, across everything, over 100. I don't know. It's been
wow.
Yeah.
And what are you, 23?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. I think I just had the blessing of finding what I loved at a young age. So, like, because to get to this level, it takes, a decade. Most people don't find what they love till their young 20s, so they'd be where I'm at in their 30s. I just lucked out and found it when I was really young.
It's that, but it's also your vision. The fact, one of the things that I was really impressed by when I started looking into you after my daughter introduced me is that you invest so much money into the show.
All the money I make. I don't. Why do I need money?
So you don't like go crazy? You don't have a Ferrari or anything nuts?
No. I think living your life chasing like a nicer car and a bigger and bigger box to live in is kind of like a dumb way to go about life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually, funny enough, I lived in like a super below average home, and I kind of learned why famous people don't live in below average homes, because someone broke in, stole everything I owned. So I had to get a little nicer house for security reasons. But before I was robbed, I mean, like my place was like a little duplex, $700 a month. You get a roommate's $360 split.
Right.
Yeah, and just drive a normal car. Well, now I drive a Tesla just because of the, getting off of gas and stuff like that.
Okay, crew. Did you hear that? Did you hear what he said? Mind-blowing, right? So he understood and it actually says more about it in the actual interview, so definitely go and check it out. But yeah, he worked out very quickly that what the heck is the point in getting money to buy shiny things? What for, right? Like he said, he doesn't need money, and he runs a non-profit, which he's going to get into in a second. So what's the point? All he loves is what he loves. All he does is what he loves. You know what I mean? So again, he doesn't need external validation to make himself feel good. Remember, I spoke about this before. That's the same thing. He doesn't need that because he is fulfilled. He's fulfilled doing what he does. So what else is he going to do? What do you need? He's working all the time anyway because he just loves it. So what's he going to do? Come home to sleep in his pimp-ass place? He's not working from home. He's working from his warehouses and his production studios. So again, what does he need money for? What does he need a pimp place for? He's not trying to show anybody. He's not trying to put lavish parties on. He's not trying to impress anybody. He's just doing life. And the key thing is, if you are chasing money to buy shiny things because you think it's going to make you feel better, I'm here to tell you it doesn't. It never does. It never, ever does. If you've got a studio, you'll get used to it. If you've got a mansion, you've got used to it. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't get those things if you want those things. Absolutely, do whatever you want. It's cool, There's cool things are cool things. But understand, it's not going to make you feel like you want it to. And when you got to look at someone like Mr. Beast, who's, I don't know, his businesses are doing like a couple of $100 million a year, then you've got to look at life differently. That was the way the old societal structure told you to be. Do you know what I mean? Like, you earn more money, you get a bigger house. You earn more money, you get a more expensive car. You earn more money, you get a bigger watch, right? You earn more money. But it's pointless. It's pointless. If you had imagine having no bills. Think about this, right? Imagine having no bills a month besides your electric, gas, things like that. Imagine if there was no other bills. Imagine if you pay cash for everything. You're like, yeah, but I want... No. Imagine if you pay cash for everything and you didn't have it then it's because you didn't pay for it cash. Now, would you live in a smaller house? Sure. Would you be driving a not as good car? Sure. But at the end of each month, guess what happens? Yeah, you're not paying $10,000 out a month. You're not paying whatever it is a month. And the stress that must come off your head must be unbelievable. Now, I'm not doing all of this for sure, but that's the goal, right? That's the goal, to own or don't have. And years ago, that's the way it was. It was before the finance companies worked out that they can sell people financing for cars, and everyone just paid cash for cars. So you drive a smaller car. Who cares? Who cares? The same with a house. You'd have a smaller house because people would pay cash. And then mortgages came out, and then everyone started to finance everything. Not saying not to do that. There's different structures financially and all the rest of it. But what's the reason that you want it?
But yeah.
So you don't go crazy at all with cash?
No.
You don't? No.
I really try not to. I think that's like just a bad way to go about life. Also, it is a little hypocritical because I run a nonprofit, and we have you seen our Beast Philanthropy channel?
No.
Can you pull that up as well? We do a lot of stuff for helping people, and so also if I lived in a $10 million mansion, while I'm feeding people and trying to help people, also in my eyes, it's also a little hypocritical as well. So in every area, I feel like it's just better if I just live below my means.
You're just very wise for a young man, because a lot of 23-year-olds would be balling out of their fucking mind right now.
Zoom out. Well, yeah, I also have some stories about that too, but
you do.
Yeah, because I did have a phase where I did ball out a little bit, and then I realized, this doesn't make me happy.
What did you do during the balling out phase?
I bought an i8, and I also bought some designer clothes, like some $1,000 shirts and stuff like that. Ironically, all of which was stolen when my house was broken into. So it's kind of perfect, because I was like, I don't know if I really care about this stuff anymore, and then someone just stole all my expensive shit, and I was like, perfect.
That makes me laugh. That last little bit. We're just wrapping this episode up, but that makes me laugh. It's, you know what I mean? It's like it got taken away from it, and that's the thing. When you've got precious things, then you're precious around them. You know what I mean? And you don't want them to be damaged. And I remember back in the day, you know what I mean? We're talking his age, which was wild. I left for Australia from the UK when I was 24, so a year older than him, and I was very insecure, and in the UK, it's very labely. You know what I mean? People like labels, and I thought they meant something because I was so insecure. You know what I mean? I come from absolutely zero money, poor, and it's a case of, having a Armani jeans, Armani t-shirt, Armani key rings, that meant something, but it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean a thing. But guess what? Mr. Beast is showing us that at a high level. So probably want to listen to this episode again, right? Probably want to reevaluate who you're hanging around with. Probably want to reevaluate what you're spending your money on. Probably want to reevaluate your hyper obsession. Probably want to reevaluate your new future, right? Of course you do. So there we go, crew. The end of episode 347 with Mr. Beast Jimmy himself, and definitely go and watch the full interview. It's really, really cool. And speaking of really, really cool, make sure that you're heading over to theradicalformula.com and make sure that you are also, just take a look. We've got the webinar, as I say, the training coming up. There's a training there right now, but it's nothing like what we put together for this big webinar training. It's really cool. It's like all graphics coming in. It's like a little movie. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. So keep an eye out for that. Make sure that you're also coming over to the Radical Formula on Facebook. Join the Facebook group, because we're going to be cranking out lives from next week, actually. So I think Thursday, Friday next week, we begin our lives across all platforms. But come and connect with me somewhere. Just Andy Murphy Mindset, whether it's on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. I've got a TikTok there, but I'm not really using it right now. But you can connect with me there too. So until the next time, much love. Keep kicking ass. And one more thing. Why don't you smile for me?
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode of the Mindset by Design podcast with your host and NLP expert, Andy Murphy. We'll catch you next time.